Theodoric deliberately left some traces of his presence, the hands on the pillars, to emphasize their own ability to destroy his barbarian kingdom. The returning empire was determined to banish the image of Theodoric from history altogether. But one rare image of him survives.
This is a medallion that was issued in the year 500, and it's the only image that we have of Theodoric, and maybe you can see a certain similarity with the mosaic.
There certainly is a similarity between Theodoric's face on the rare medallion and the image of Justinian I'd been working on. The medallion shows Theodoric without a crown and simply dressed. And recent research has proved that the crown and the brooch on Emperor Justinian's mosaic were added later, as was the name Justinian itself. Could it be that the mosaic face had once belonged to Theodoric? What would happen if you compared the images closely?
So they really airbrushed him out?
Yes, they airbrushed him out.
The returning Romans had felt so threatened by this evidence of a barbarian culture that they removed it. But they weren't able to disguise Theodoric's tomb, a confident statement of his barbarian origins.
This is one of the most important buildings we have in Ravenna. This is the mausoleum of Theodoric.
There are echoes of his early childhood on the plains of Eastern Europe. And to many the shape of the roof resembles a yurt, the tent favoured by nomads from the east.
We know also that Theodoric came from a people, nomad people, but he lived in a palace during when we was in Ravenna, not in a tent.
Well, most people would choose to live in a palace,
yes,
I think.
Yes.
Even a nomad. So how did they build the mausoleum? Because some of this stoneworking seems very good to me.
Yes, very good, and there are no mortar for this building.
The vast dome of a roof was carved from a single piece of stone which was shipped across the Adriatic Sea from Istria in modern-day Croatia. Sauro found it on my map straight away.
This is the area where the stone came from for the mausoleum.
Ah, Styria.
Croatia.
This is
Cyprus.
Yes.
Cyprus.
And this is the Holy Land, isn't it? Oh, there's River Ganges.
Ganges, yes.
Yes.
At the end of the world.
Yeah, where is the end of the world here?
Under Theodoric, the Goths established a kingdom that foreshadowed the shape of modern Italy. A first step towards the creation of modern Europe, perhaps. But what matters to me is not so much the extent of his power, but what he believed in. I'm travelling north now to one of the most dramatic examples of Theodoric's spiritual vision. The 5th century was a time of religious ferment, and Theodoric was an Arian Christian, not a Roman Catholic. Arians, like Theodoric, didn't believe in the Holy Trinity, could not accept the divinity of Christ. For the Catholic Church, this was heresy. This track in southern Austria once led to a walled city perched high in the mountains and long since vanished. It's a place where he protected both branches of Christianity and let them worship side by side. Side by side on the top of the mountain stand the ruins of two ancient churches. The Catholic Church on one side, and here, some 50 yards away, the Arian Church. As the two congregations worshipped, they must have heard each other's prayers. This just and civilized barbarian said once, "We cannot command the religion of our subjects, since no one can be forced to believe against their will."
Here, as in Ravenna, the Goths displayed an extraordinary tolerance. A tolerance perhaps we wouldn't expect to find among barbarians, and a tolerance perhaps that we're lacking today.
People still come here on pilgrimage, and though they are not honouring Theodoric's memory, it seems to me, of all the barbarians, he's the one we should remember. The barbarians have been dismissed as the Hell's Angels of history. For 1500 years we've had a one-sided view of them. I've discovered there is no one label that can be applied to the various tribes who took Europe from the Romans. The Vandals who breached the frontiers at Mainz simply valued different things and a different way of life. The Huns formed a military force which was able to rival and overpower the Romans, helped by a technology which was to change warfare for 1,000 years. More than that, they were a sophisticated and cultured people. The enlightened Gothic kingdom of Theodoric showed itself at least the equal of Rome, and in many ways its superior, especially in tolerance. This barbarian world so threatened the Romans that their historians and propagandists tried to erase it from history. I've reached the end of the first part of my journey, but in the far northwest of Europe, another wave was breaking. This time they would arrive by boat. But were they barbarians intent on destruction, or immigrants striving to create a new world?